going to make one of Jason's signature tacos called the Taco Veracruz. We are back here in my kitchen with Chef Jason Wyrick. Very excited to be here with you today again.
Thanks.
We did an interview a couple weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, I'll put a link down below so you can check it out.
This actually is one of the favorite recipes that people have of mine in the delivery service and catering, whatever I do. And it's because it's just a really lively taco, and it's a taco that we don't really see a lot here in the States. And because I think what we usually hear about are carnitas and asada, which is it's all these meat tacos, right. And it's usually just some sort of meat and a salsa on it and guacamole, and it's all kind of stuff you expect. But the Veracruz taco is really cool because it melds a lot of Spanish elements into classic Mexican cuisines, and it's one of the holdovers of obviously the Spanish conquest of Mexico. But with that came this influx of really great ingredients. And that's why the Veracruz taco is made with a sauce. It's made with fire roasted tomatoes, which is kind of a classic Mexican ingredient, even though we think about it as Spanish or Italian out. The tomatoes are actually the Central American ingredient. And that's fused with olives and capers, which were the Spanish ingredients. Okay. And so it's this explosion of flavor.
Nice.
And of course, if you like spicy food, it's right up your alley too, because we're adding chipotles and adobo to this. And chipotles and adobo are really cool because a chipotle is a smoke-dried jalapeno, and adobo is a marinade, and the marinade is made from a bunch of spices, a little bit of vinegar, and chilies. So it's basically smoked chilies marinated in chilies.
Beautiful.
I know, it's wonderful. What we're going to do is we're actually going to start by assembling that Veracruz sauce. So the Veracruz sauce is super simple. What you do is you take cans of fire roasted tomatoes, add those to your pot, and I really like either the crushed or the diced fire roasted tomatoes because they're pretty thick, and so because they're thick, that's going to cling to the sauce. Then we're going to add in some capers, and I've already popped this open and drained the capers. And if you're going absolutely zero salt except what is already in a veggie, then you can omit the capers and you can omit the olives. If you're okay with a little bit, and these add kind of shots of salt, but not a ton on their own, so it doesn't suffuse the dish with salt. You just get these little shots of it. Then you're going to add in for a couple cans of that, you're going to add in about half a jar of these capers. So the other thing we're going to add in are these green olives, and again, I get a lot of this at Trader Joe's. Okay. And my favorite for this taco, it's a green olive stuffed with garlic.
Oh, perfect.
I love these things. 6 to 8 of these. And just set that aside when you're done. Just going to take these olives, slice through them. And I love these because it's got that garlic.
Yeah.
And if you're a garlic hater, I guess you can omit these, but don't ever tell me that you omitted them.
I don't think we have too many garlic haters.
I don't know that many. Then we're going to take some fresh oregano, so I just get a really large sprig. And what I do is I pull against the stem.
Right.
That just makes it a little easier to pull those leaves off until I get to the top, and then you can just tear the top off. And it's okay that these are pretty large leaves when they go in there, because as this cooks, those leaves are going to wilt up. And you can see, I don't have a recipe in front of me or anything like that. I'm eyeballing this. Totally. That's the way I cook at home. That's the way most people cook at home. So my rule is, when you're eyeballing something and you're not quite sure if there's enough in, put more in, because it's more flavor.
There you go. We're the same there.
That's awesome. Lots of fresh oregano, and then here are those chipotles and adobo that I talked about. These are those smoke-dried jalapenos, and of course they're suffused in that adobo. I'm going to go through, chop these up. I like my food a bit spicy, so I add in 2 of these. You can see I can turn it almost into a chipotle paste.
Okay.
That goes into the pot. And then the final ingredient that goes in here are these potatoes, and you want some sort of potato that's really creamy, like a Yukon Gold or a fingerling or something like that. They're really starchy, and so they hold their shape when you simmer them in a sauce for a while. If you use something like a russet potato and you're not paying attention, you may end up with mashed potato Veracruz tacos. So use something like this, and then you're just going to cut them a little bit small. So what I do is I start by cutting these potatoes into slabs. So once you get those potatoes sliced up, just going to go through until you end up with cubes. about like that.
Perfect.
Once this finishes simmering, and it'll take about 5 or 6 minutes once it actually starts to simmer to cook these potatoes, and a lot of that is going to depend on the cut that you get on those potatoes, which is why it's important to get these small.
Okay.
Once you're done simmering that, you're going to add in pinto beans to finish that off. So that's going to add some heartiness to the taco, and it's going to add some protein to the taco.
Nice.
And of course, I love pinto beans anyway.
I love them.
So usually when I do this, I'll do about 6 of these smaller potatoes, enough that I get pretty much an equal amount of potato to an equal amount of beans. You may think, why don't I just add those beans right now and make it easy? And there is a reason that I'm not doing that, which is the beans just add more volume to the pot, and so it takes longer to cook the potatoes. And I hate waiting for food. If I can get something done in 5 minutes as opposed to 8 minutes and there's no difference, I'm going to do it in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to transfer this over to the stove. I crank the heat up on this until I see it simmer, and then I crank it down to usually a medium. We're going to make fresh tortillas, and you can totally use store-bought tortillas if you want to, but I think once you start making fresh tortillas, it's like the difference between eating freshly cracked pepper and that stuff from the can. All of a sudden, the stuff from the can tastes like cardboard.
Right.
Right. If I'm doing really nice tacos, I'm making my own tortillas. You can make your own masa at home, and masa is just the name for the corn dough that you make tortillas out of. It's corn that's been specially treated so that it'll stick together. I've seen some people, and they're like, I'm going to make my own masa at home, and they get cornmeal,
Right.
or they get corn flour, but it's actually not the same.
This is probably
It's probably the most common.
about the most common one out there, but they have a few brands.
They have other ones.
Here in Phoenix, we have some amazing Latin markets and
Yeah, they're all
stores
over the
where you
place.
can get all kinds of different types. But usually on the internet and stuff, for those of you who don't have a Latin market nearby, this is probably the one that's the go-to
Yeah,
brand.
the steak is pretty solid.
And it's super cheap. If
It
you can
is.
find it locally, especially, like a bag like this is what, just a couple of bucks?
It's funny, like,
$4.
Once you start making your own tortillas, they're like 2 or 3 cents each.
Yeah, it's so cheap to make.
It's super cheap. Okay, so if you're gonna make your own tortillas, you need a tortilla press. Unless you're just a total badass already and you can do them out by hand. My grandmother would do that.
Really?
And I go to Nogales and I see a lot of the, usually women, the older Hispanic women down there. And I mean, they'll take some masa and it's on the comal.
Crazy.
And they're probably doing 20 tortillas in a minute. It's insane.
Without a press?
Without a press.
Wow.
But I use a press.
I use a
And
press.
I suggest most other people use a press too. So there are lots of different presses you can get. You can get these aluminum presses. They're kind of the standard ones. They're about $15. You can get them off Amazon and a lot of other markets around Phoenix specifically. You can get these nicer cast iron ones. They're about $30. They'll get you a flatter tortilla. The only thing you have to watch out for these is if the first few times you do them, you may actually make the tortilla too flat, and then you just got to start over. But it's not a huge deal. I love these.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I only spent like $30 on it.
Yeah, they're great. The only thing with these and a lot of tortilla presses is this masa is really sticky, and so if you do it straight on the press, chances are part of your tortilla, once it's pressed out, is going to stick to it and it's going to fall apart.
Yep.
So to do that, you just need some sort of a plastic. So we take just a normal plastic bag. So we're going to cut along this. And we're going to lay these on the tortilla press. We're going to take a ball of masa, maybe 1.5 inches in diameter, roll it up. You put these in the tortilla press, just a little bit off center. Put the other sheet of plastic on there, down with the press, and you crush it. And check that out.
Beautiful.
It is a beautiful, perfectly round tortilla. We have our skillet heated up. The heavier the skillet, the better this is going to work. Cast iron skillets are perfect for this, or any heavy bottom skillet with this.
Just for the heat, or?
For the heat, it makes it real even.
Okay.
Sometimes if your pan is too thin, the pan will warp just a little bit.
Right.
And the heat will conduct too fast into the tortilla, or it won't be even.
Okay.
So something heavy is best for this. And then you just gently peel this off, First time I did this, I was like, I am awesome, and I slapped this down in the middle of the skillet, and when you slap it down, all it does is make a big bubble in the center. And then it's a little bit of hurry up and wait. You can see it's starting to smoke a little bit, the tortilla is starting to toast.
And if you haven't made them before, you kind of play around, get to know your stove a little bit, because every stove's going to be a little different. Every pan's a little different.
That's right.
And you kind of get your favorite pan, your favorite burner setting, and then you're like ultra fast at it after that.
You can see it's starting to curl up. When you see that curl, flip it over, and then you can stop at this point. Some people like their tortillas a little more browned, so if you want, you can just leave it on there a bit longer and brown those tortillas.
But you'll notice, even on a dry skillet, they don't stick.
They don't stick.
You don't need all that crazy oil and stuff.
No, traditionally this is done on what's called a comal, which is just a piece of clay.
How do they heat? Is the clay usually over fire?
Usually over fire.
Okay.
You can see there's a little browning on that. To me, that's the perfect tortilla. We've got that sauce made. So these are the beans that I talked about. It's just a can of pinto beans that I had rinsed and drained. Just gonna stir that into the filling. And by the way, this in itself is a fine meal. You don't even have to turn it into a taco. You could eat it this way. You could, if you have some leftover rice, you could serve this over rice and still have an incredible meal.
Delicious.
But
I can see we might have more than enough for 4 tacos, so you're going to leave that with me, right?
I'll leave some of it. I have a take-home package right here. Okay, so we're going to finish this off with which is some easy guacamole. So I'm going to take this avocado, and the way that I do avocados is I sink my knife into the top of it, and then you'll notice I'm rotating my avocado around the knife as opposed to the other way. Thunk the knife into the seed and rotate it. Get that out, and then I'm just going to give this a rough chop in the skin, and I'm pushing down pretty slow until I feel the skin with my knife. If you push down too hard, you might not have a vegan taco at some point.
Yeah.
I like a chunky guacamole. I don't like a super smooth guacamole, which is why I chop this and then lightly smash it. Then we're going to take some lime, and we're going to juice that lime directly into the bowl. It has a lot of lime juice, but I love my food to pop with flavor. Lightly smash it up, and if I wasn't super impatient, I would let this sit in the lime juice probably for about 10 minutes. That way when you pull out these chunks of avocado, they're just dressed in a ton of lime juice, and they've marinated a little bit. But I am not that patient. Okay. So we're gonna eat this pretty fast. So 2 tortillas.
Looks awesome.
We're gonna take some of this avocado.
All right, it's taste time?
It is taste time. Let's eat.
I can't wait. Well, that lime is awesome. It pops with the avocado like that. I haven't done just soaked lime avocado. It's so simple. What is that, 3 steps?
Yeah.
And if you don't even want to make your own tortillas, which you certainly should. I mean, they're delicious. You've seen me make tortillas before, so you know I'm all about it. This is really good, really simple. You can entertain or just cook for the family with these, man.
What amazes me is it doesn't look like a lot of food, but after 2 or 3 of these, I'm totally stuffed.
Yeah.
And I feel great afterwards. Like this is some of the healthiest stuff you can eat, and you forget that it's healthy food because it's so good. That's what we should always shoot for.
I love getting full and not feeling like you can't function after.
Right.
Like I still eat as much physical mass as I used to, but now I can actually operate afterward.
Yeah, like I used to crash out. I'd fall asleep after eating lunch or dinner. Yeah, now I'm like, what am I going to do? I want to go out and like do a hike or a bike ride or something like that.
Yeah. Thank you, Chef Jason.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. Definitely.
Check out, in the meantime, Jason's new restaurant opening up next month, CasaTerra.com. I'll put a link down below in the description. I'll also put a link to the vegan food delivery service, so you can check that out. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
And good luck with the new place. I can't wait to get there.
Thank you, and thank you all for watching too.
Thank you. See you on the next one.